So Ninja Gaiden 4 is supposed to be coming out a little bit later this year, I think in October of 2025. I forgot the official release date, but I think it's supposed to be coming out sometime around mid or late October, and it's going to be like the first main entry that we've gotten within the Ninja Gaiden series since 2012 when Ninja Gaiden 3 came out. And Ninja Gaiden 4 is going to be co-developed by Platinum Games and Team Ninja, published by Xbox Game Studio, and surprisingly, it's going to be on the PlayStation 5 alongside with Microsoft Windows and Xbox Series X. So obviously, I guess Xbox is serious about bringing their games to other game systems like the Switch and PlayStation 5 and stuff like that. And they're making good on that promise. But Ninja Gaiden 4, I feel like is a game that I don't know. I feel like this is something that should have happened like a lot sooner because Ninja Gaiden 3 was over a decade ago. And even though like the franchise, the name is something that casuals are familiar with, I don't feel like it's I don't feel like the franchise is as hot as it once was during the NES era from like the late 90s, not late 90s or late 80s, early 90s, or during the 2000s for that matter, because I feel like during the 2000s, um, it seemed like the gameplay of the series got better and it got to a point where it started doing pretty well in terms of sales because I think the Ninja Gaiden game that we got from '04 did over 1 mil in terms of sales, and then Ninja Gaiden 2 that we got in 2008, which was also 3D, did over a mil in sales as well. And those were the best. Those were among the best-selling entries in the entire series, and a lot of people will go on record and tell you that the NES games were more iconic. But but yeah, I mean, like you take a game like you take like a game like what we got, coming up pretty soon. You can't really make it a 2D like hack and slash or a platformer or what have you after the 3D games that we got in the 2000s. I feel like we needed a 3D sequel to Ninja Gaiden 3. And I think it's pretty cool that they're picking up where Ninja Gaiden 3 left off. And obviously the Dark Dragon's going to return, but the thing is there's a catch because we have a new protagonist by the name of Yakumo, and I think Ryu is also supposed to be in this game as well. And for those who don't know, Ryu is he was like the original protagonist in the Ninja Gaiden series, and it's probably going to be one of those deals where you have two main protagonists opposed to just one because I think he's in the game also, and that's pretty cool because including him in this game, gives I guess it gives like the creators something to build off of in terms of storytelling. Also, longtime fans of this series will remember Ryu, and it's something that will like draw them into the game and into the story and all that other stuff. And I saw the gameplay for this, and it looks pretty brutal. I don't know what the rating is, but like in my opinion, it has to be M-rated because there was so much blood and gore in that game that it was ridiculous. And I feel like that's something that's going to add to the overall appeal of Ninja Gaiden 4. And and honestly, I feel like with Ninja Gaiden games in general, um, I feel like, there's a particular preference depending on who you are and whether it's better as like a 2D platform action game or whether it's better as a 3D action adventure type of title. And you look at Ninja Gaiden and you look at like the path that it could have took if it had remained 2D. Um Xbox Game Studios and Team Ninja and Platinum Games, they probably could have did something where it was like 2D similar to the Strider game that we got back in 2014, that was produced by Capcom, or something that had the aesthetics of the Mark of the Ninja game from 2012. Even though that was like a stealth game, I thought the aesthetics was pretty cool, and I don't know, it kind of like reminded me of the older Ninja Gaiden games from back in the day. But But yeah, I feel like the graphics for this game is pretty cool. The whole like futuristic Tokyo vibe is something that people can really get into. And I don't think it's just another game trying to be something else. Okay, this is Ninja Gaiden. All right. The IP started back in the 80s, and we have gotten several games within the franchise throughout the past couple of decades. So I'm pretty sure like it's a game that will attract enough attention to a point where it'll break 1 or 2 mil in terms of sales, but it's a little too early to tell because I feel like the preference in terms of what people want in gaming, especially with this generation gamers, is a lot different than what we saw back in like the 80s or 2000s or what have you. So it really makes you wonder how well Ninja Gaiden 4 is going to do when it comes out um, on October of, I think it's like the 20th or the 21st. I'm not exactly sure, but around that time period, I feel like it's something that I mean, it could potentially do well in terms of sales because I think Black Friday is in November, so it's coming out weeks before that, and then you got the holiday season and Christmas. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm not exactly sure of um too many people from this generation, like too many like Gen Z people are familiar with Ninja Gaiden. I'm pretty sure millennials are familiar with it. Maybe people from Gen X are familiar with Ninja Gaiden, the franchise, but if you've been following the series like since the 80s or even the 2000s, I feel like Ninja Gaiden 4 is a game that's worth checking out, especially considering the fact that it's going to be on the PS5, PC, and Xbox Series X. There's been no word of a Switch 2 release at all, but depending on how well this game does on a commercial level, it's quite possible that it'll eventually end up on the Switch 2 sometime later down the line. But until then, we're just gonna have to sit back and wait and see how well this game does and whether or not um, the game actually exceeds people's expectations in terms of sales and overall commercial success. But as of right now, things are looking pretty good with Ninja Gaiden 4. I do feel like it has the potential to be one of the best action adventure games of 2025. But I don't know. I'm not gonna have like super high hopes for it or anything like that. I'm not expecting it to do like, 3, 4, or 5 mil in terms of sales because I feel like the series has been dead for over the past decade. And sometimes it's kind of tough to, bounce back from something like that. And and yeah, the hack and slash genre is not, what it used to be. Because I feel like in the teens decade, like the hack and slash genre had a peak period in terms of popularity. Then it kind of just like, died out and, it just became irrelevant over time. But, Ninja Gaiden 4, I feel like it's a game that people have been waiting to see for quite some time. So it's possible that might end up exceeding everybody's overall expectation in relation to sales.